Hi, I'm Christopher Warnock of Renaissance Astrology. Today I'm going to talk about consecrating a talisman for someone else and gifts of talismans. So this comes out of my devotional practice, which is different from, I think, the standard, mostly unconscious approach that I see, on social media or, when people ask me questions. And, I don't want to say, oh, mine's the best, mine's the only way, everyone else is wrong. You really want to find the way that resonates for you. But like I said, as I look out there, I see that there's a sort of dogma kind of emerging about, and one approach that everyone thinks they have to follow. Just recognize there's alternatives. You can follow that approach if you want to, if it resonates with you. Check out mine if that resonates with you. You can try that out too. But one of the ways you can see how the devotional practice sort of differs from the standard approach is when you think about talismans for other people. Um, and so the standard approach, talisman is sort of like a battery. It's basically this dead, it's a material object. It's just, like I said, it's material. It's charged with some sort of energy, and it's for you. You can use it, abuse it, toss it away when you're done with it, or you could give it to somebody else. So basically, the approach would be if you've had a talisman, you don't want it anymore, you give it to somebody else, no problem. In the devotional approach, a talisman is really a means to develop a relationship with celestial angels. So the magic doesn't come from the object, from the talisman itself, but from the relationship. And so you really can't transfer the relationship. I mean, you can't really say to the angel, here's your new best friend. So from a devotional standpoint, I'm kind of iffy about giving away talismans once you've consecrated them for yourself. But when people ask about gifts of talismans, I'm like, yes, very thoughtful and generous to get a talisman for somebody else. So in fact, giving a talisman to somebody else, to a friend, a family member, a loved one, I think is an excellent devotional practice because it's so selfless, because it's for others. So lots of options that you could follow on. Now, in terms of getting one from Renaissance Astrology, if you want to get a Renaissance Astrology talisman as a gift, let me just sort of walk through the options of how you could do that. First, what you want to do is have me check the recipient's natal chart. And so if you're serious about getting the Renaissance Astrology talisman, just email me the date of birth of the prospective recipient, and I can check for compatibility with specific talismans if there's ones you have in mind, or if you want me to make talisman suggestions. And so what I can do then is if you buy the talisman, I could either ship the gift talisman directly to the recipient, or I can ship it to you, whichever you prefer. Contact me if you need to have non-US shipping. And also, if you're having me ship directly to the recipient, I can do a little gift message. So you send me that and I can stick a little thing in there that's got the gift message of your choice. So we can include that in there. So another thing that people ask me about, they say, well, it's for like a family member and, or a child or whatever, and I don't think they're going to do the consecration. What you can do is if you get a talisman for somebody else, and that's right from the get-go for the other person, then you can do the initial consecration on their behalf before you give it to them. And so, again, and what this leads to is another really excellent devotional practice. Again, because it's selfish, it's not for your purposes, it's for somebody else, is to have a talisman on your altar dedicated to a friend, family member, or loved one. So what you do is you get the talisman, you specifically consecrate it for them on their behalf, and you can make both general and specific requests on their behalf. And then you continue to keep consecrating it for them. So this is their talisman, but you're the one who's, basically doing the consecration for them. Now, I think ideally it would be best to do it yourself, so you develop the relationship. But again, if this is someone that you have a close emotional relationship with, like I said, as a friend, a family member, someone you care about, you have a connection to them, and therefore I think it's still quite effective to go ahead and, like I said, consecrate the talisman on their behalf. And if you want to do repeated consecrations for them or make requests for them, again, I think that's perfectly reasonable. And if you think about it, again, a lot of what I do is inspired by devotional practices, like for example, devotion to Mary, Mother of Heaven, and you can think about doing a novena for somebody. I mean, this is very standard, very normal approach of how you could approach the angels, and ask for good for somebody else. And so the celestial angels are just like that. You can again ask for good for that person. So how do you do a consecration on behalf of somebody else? Very simple. Basically, just do the standard consecration. But when you do it, just say that you're doing it in the name of the recipient and for their benefit. And again, if you want to make specific or general requests, you can do that. Always remembering with the celestial angels or angels in general that, you may or may not get what you ask for. I mean, this is the way prayer is. I mean, prayer is very beneficial, but it's not sort of this automatic thing that you're going to get exactly what you want. So as long as you do it with that expectation. But I think, again, the view of doing this for somebody else, I think adds to the devotional punch of what you're doing. Again, it's very selfless. So, again, you do the consecration and you're going to suffumigate. You're going to move the talisman back and forth through the incense. One of the things you could do if you wanted to is to place that after you do the suffumigation, place the talisman on a picture of the person, or you could have the picture up on your altar. This would be a good setup for your altar if you keep the talisman and consecrate it for regularly on behalf of the person. So another thing that this brings about, I was thinking about this and it sort of inspired me, is again, you could do planetary charity on behalf of another person. You can see the link there for planetary charity. So again, you do the planetary charity, and as you're doing the initial invocation, you just mention that this is for us, this specific person. And again, when you're doing the gifts or you're doing the donation, you could also indicate that's, like saying online, you would say on behalf of the recipient. Again, if you had the picture on your altar while you were doing the initial consecration or doing the consecration for it, I think that's, again, gives a nice spiritual, magical link. Not necessary, but I think it's helps link up and, bring the positive stuff and brings it into mind. I mean, if you think of that person's picture, you meditate on the person, again, that helps form a connection and both in your soul and then the soul of the world, Anima Mundi. And I mean, as always, there's no way to predict what the effects, if any, of a talisman or planetary charity are going to be for a particular person, but I think it's extremely beneficial, certainly at least from a karmic standpoint. I mean, again, you're spending all this time and energy and effort for somebody else, trying to help them. I think that's great. And so I think this devotional approach, like I said, in terms of getting a gift for somebody, trying to help them out, giving them something that they like, I think that's great. And the devotional practice, I think, really opens up all sorts of possibilities. And it steps away from the standard magical approach, which is very much focused on getting specific stuff for yourself. And again, nothing wrong with that, but it's not the only way to fly. So again, as I said, find the approach that resonates for you, but it is cool to see these alternatives open up. And, again, over the years, had more and more people get talismans as gifts, and I also just wanted to walk through the practical process of that, but also talk about the spiritual and magical underpinnings of that. So I hope that you find it inspiring, and it's certainly something in my daily prayer round. I have a whole list of people that I pray for. I think that's very beneficial for myself and for them.